So, wow. I am at Highway 43 between Lost Trail Ski Area and Wisdom, Montana. And as you can see, wildfire just ripped through here, and I haven't even gotten to where the fire is still burning, which I will here in a moment, but it is sobering, to say the least. I am risking my health just to be here at all. And frankly, I should probably get out of here, because this helps a little bit, but only so much. It's heartbreaking. And the irony is not lost on me. I'm revving a motorcycle up the pass, burning gasoline. All right, back to the highway. Over the course of this week-long motorcycle trip across Montana, I basically drove through, slept in, and experienced life inside of a campfire. I was on the road for just over a week, and the forest you just saw me standing in, or lack thereof, was bordering 300 parts per million on the air quality index, which indicates the unhealthy particulate matter of the air around you. This level of bad air is under the hazardous zone, which carries the health warnings of emergency-like conditions. Every single human on Earth is negatively affected by being in air this bad. And while the air wasn't like what you just saw through the entire trip, over 1,400 miles, it was still between 100 to 200 ppm the whole time, which is considered unhealthy. And health-wise, I should have canceled my trip, but I needed this motorcycle and adventure therapy. But I've paid for it. My chest has been heavy, and a cough has been ever present since. I wore a vented mask through the trip, the one you saw, and have on many days the past month or so. Most of our Montana and Utah summer days have held poor air quality. The air after a wildfire rips through these areas and leaves nothing but destruction, dead animals, plants. Even the creek that is running through here is now contaminated. Everything is burned. It's dead. It's dead. It's dead. And that lasts for years afterward. And of course, it's not very scenic to look at. It's heartbreaking. Climate change. Yes, friends, climate change is fanning the flames of these wildfires. And while they're a part of the natural ecosystem, they're worsening due to our human-caused global warming, our poor logging and forest management practices, and our reckless human behavior, such as burning campfires, shooting weapons in dry areas, lighting fireworks, and disposing of cigarettes through littering when fire restrictions are in place. We need to start taking these restrictions seriously. And if it sounds like I'm pissed off, it's because I am. And you out there that cares about sustainability, you should be too. It's okay to be angry right now. The threat and death of our natural world has clearly not been enough to motivate world leaders and people in general, I suppose, to take action on these problems. And why is that, right? Because this is complicated, right? It's a huge problem that we're facing. And unwinding the damage and shifting the economy is like nearly an impossible feat. But we have to try. Okay, let's take a breath. Let's take a breath.
Hi everyone, I'm Tom Marshall, aka the Visionary Lemur in the VIRIVERSE. I believe that work should help you thrive as a human being while also making the world a better place. Based on this, I work as a coach and speaker helping changemakers thrive. I'm also a climate activist of Extinction Rebellion, which is what led Chance to invite me for this special on the IPCC report. This is a picture of me in my first arrest earlier this year. My sign says in Dutch, "I'm terrified to have children because of the climate crisis." What I'm going to tell you now is traumatic. This report is difficult to take in. So I want to applaud you for being here, for listening to this, because everyone needs to go through this process to really grieve and understand the magnitude of this situation, this crisis that we're in right now. So I'm going to talk to you about the IPCC report that was published in August 2021. Now, the IPCC reports are the most frequently cited international body of information on climate science. And the IPCC is an organization of 195 governments that are members of the UN. And thousands of people from all over the world contribute to the work, with IPCC scientists volunteering their time to assess and summarize the thousands of scientific papers which are published each year. And this provides a comprehensive summary about the climate crisis in an open and transparent way. Here we go. So the first element to understand of this report is that we are currently at 1.1 degrees warming average across the globe since pre-industrial levels. And the science says that we will reach 1.5 degrees by 2040 in all scenarios, even if we stop now. And we already see these effects at 1.1 degrees, the awful footage that you saw in Chance's video, the forest fires, and it's only gonna get worse if we don't stop now. 1.5 degrees that is gonna be reached is dangerous. And currently we're on track for 3 degrees. And that's assuming all Paris pledges are met from the Paris Climate Agreement, which only 3 countries are meeting their pledges. So we're heading for worse than catastrophic right now for not meeting these pledges, and that's a potential existential threat to the human race. The report also showed there are now irreversible changes that we've created, with glaciers, coral reefs disappearing, which will take thousands and thousands, if not millions of years to recover. So it's irreversible now. I also read a report saying that the Gulf Stream is nearing a day after tomorrow tipping point, if you've seen that movie. And the report really looks into these tipping points where essentially a tipping point is if we stop polluting tomorrow, this event will still happen because the Earth is down a path of pollution, of emissions that will not recover. So the Gulf Stream is slowing and it's nearing a shutdown, which if it shuts down, which it's nearing, would have dramatic sea level rises across the east coast of the US and extremely cold winters in Europe. So what we've seen right now at 1.1 degrees is nothing. It gets exponentially worse the more we pollute as the Earth gets warmer and warmer and warmer. Another thing that this report has shown is that through probability and analysis, we're able to link these extreme weather events to the climate crisis directly, which makes it easier to win court cases and sue your government. So maybe other people in the US, you can be suing the federal government after the floods that we've seen in New York, after the forest fires that we've seen. And this is something that we did in the Netherlands, where I'm based right now, where the citizens actually sued the government for failing to meet their climate agreement, and they won. Another good thing is that we know with even more certainty now from this report that it is humans who are causing the climate crisis. And if we stop polluting fossil fuels, we will stop climate change. So what do we do? Well, the IPCC says that we need strong, rapid, sustained action. Strong. So that means net zero. Rapid. We're talking 2025 or 2030, not 2050, 2025, 2030, to have a chance to keep within that 1.5 degree threshold. And sustained action. This is not something we just do, this is a transformation. Now you may think, this is unrealistic, Tom. This is not going to happen. Well, there was quite a shutdown a year and a half ago with the corona pandemic. It was difficult, but it was necessary. The government came on and said, we are in crisis. This is what's going to happen. And we did it, didn't we? We survived, we were resilient, we're much more resilient than we think as a species. How can we do this? Well, we need to take action. What have we done so far? Well, we've had all these conferences, we've had marches, we've had petitions, and nothing has worked, folks. I'm sorry to tell this to you. Look at the graph here, the CO2 emissions. We've actually emitted more CO2 since we had these conferences. So we knew what we were doing and we emitted more. So nothing has worked so far. So we need a different approach. We need to take disruptive action to disrupt business as usual. Civil disobedience. And this is the approach that Extinction Rebellion advocates for. If you're interested in this, check out this link up here. Find your local group. The strategy is solid, based on the science of social change. It's really a fantastic way, fantastic demands, fantastic way of action that I really believe, I have confidence in, will work if we do this disruptive action. Thank you all for really listening to this, for embracing this. I know it's difficult. It's traumatic to really understand this, but when you do, you can start waking up to this crisis. You can do what is necessary for your children, for your grandchildren, for humanity.
So he knows things, and not sure if I'm ready to sue my government just yet, but point taken, I suppose, especially after a recent experience that was even more eye-opening, even more inspiring, I guess, even more disturbing than what I experienced in my week of riding the highways of Montana through wildfire smoke. So imagine sitting in your office, working, just doing your thing, and your partner comes in and says, "Are you seeing this? Do we need to be concerned about that?" I look out the window and I see this giant smoke plume. My response, yeah, probably. We should find out what's going on. So we jump on Twitter and after a whirlwind of information saying that the fire is just a couple of miles away and that the community just up the mountain from us is already in evacuation status, we start preparing. And it's frantic, right? Just all over the place, throwing a bunch of stuff together, not even remotely ready for the idea of having to leave our home in such a rush, trying to get those essentials mixed with the things you don't want to lose. We enter evacuation and spent 5 days away from our home, wondering if we're going to lose all our memories, our hard work, and the money that has afforded us a comfortable life in the mountains the past 8 years. It's an uncomfortable feeling. So I've been waving the climate change flag for a long time. I've never experienced it, not like this. I've never lived it. And living it showed me how very real climate change is every day and how it can blow up your best laid plans, how it can threaten your loved ones and your livelihood. But here's the incredible thing, and I suppose somewhat disturbing thing. We were lucky. We were really lucky. We were lucky that the fire was held back from destroying any homes, which Utah fire response at every level deserves just an incredible amount of gratitude. Thank you, seriously, because it didn't look good at first. And then, as she does, Mother Nature brought just some incredibly needed summer rain during a very long dry stretch, and that put out the fire completely. We're home, our condo is safe, and life goes on. But I mean, we got to stay in this nice place in the most expensive and bougie place in Utah, which is Main Street, Park City. What about the people that had to stay at the high school evacuation center? What about the firefighters that putting their lives on the line just to protect us? And we were even called climate refugees by a friend, but I mean, were we? Like, really? What about people in other places of the world that don't get so lucky? What about true climate refugees, the ones that flee a region or a country that has become too hot or too dry or has been burned down? Some place like Paradise, California, with people dying all over the place because the fires have ripped through their town so quickly, so powerfully. What if in those situations you don't have the resources available to you to be okay? If we'd lost our home, it would have been devastating and a huge setback in life, but we would have figured something out. It's not that simple. It's not that simple for so many that are being impacted by climate change right now, every day, every single day. This fire, the Parley's Canyon fire, was started by a catalytic converter on a car, shooting hot metal out from underneath the vehicle. This is a somewhat random occurrence, but it's representative of the poor technology and the designs that we've created. In the days since, I've seen people calling out this person driving the car and saying that they should be held responsible. But I mean, what about requiring better safety and emissions inspections that could have caught the risk? And of course, even that, maybe this is the only car this person can afford. Maybe they were coming back from working a hospitality shift in a town like Park City that they can't afford to live in and have to drive back and forth to work long distances every single day. The reality of climate change hits home for me in a way it hadn't before. but it has me thinking about other people's homes and their situation. I am lucky to still be standing on this deck with this amazing view right now. That is not the case for everyone. Moments before this buffalo stopped me in my tracks, I was weaving along the highway, not a care in the world. Not a care in the world. My new buffalo friend was likely feeling a bit different about my carefree attitude. In some ways, humanity has operated this way since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, in a state of free flow and growth. It's been smooth sailing as a species overall. Well, the Earth is telling us that something is wrong and that if we don't fix it, it's going to hurt. That flow is going to come to a very screeching halt. The extinction level event that we are flirting with right now is our warning shot. Let us also examine the fact that many humans have been damaged or sacrificed in the pursuit of this industrial development sort of flow of ours. This buffalo would probably prefer that all the people that stop to capture content for their social media stop and see him in a more respectful way. And just like the displaced climate refugee that wants those in higher income countries or a place of privilege to see them and their struggle, we must see them and their struggle and recognize that none of us are above or free or safe from that of climate change. We've turned a blind eye to the social inequities we've created along the way, but that's a worthy sacrifice for the sake of this greater good, yeah? Maybe not. In fact, it's not. We've ignored the warnings that climate change is a threat to our planet and most importantly to humanity. And all the positive things that capitalism and consumerism has done will all be for naught if we don't evolve and improve. And it has done some amazing things. It has lifted a lot of people out of poverty, but now it's perpetuating the suppression of a lot of people. Unwinding this thing is hard, and changing course is hard. There are reasons why we haven't, and even still can't or won't shift our economy. But that has consequences too. And maybe we need to finally stop, assess the situation, and even back up a few steps so that we may redevelop this economy of ours. My vote is for a donut economy because donuts are damn delicious. As a nod to Tom, aka the visionary Lemur, and his fire starter community, let's start some fires for positive change. Drop some reins on the fires that are killing and displacing humans and wildlife, and stop our planet from being burnt to a crisp. We built this economy, and it's a pretty solid start. But just as we built it, we can improve it. This is what a more mature and sustainable humanity would do. Let's do this, friends. Let's do this. So going back into our condo after evacuation, and as you can see, our parking garage is empty because everybody is gone. And I'm going back in to get some last things because we're not sure when we're going to be able to get back in. But it's quiet, dark. There's a police officer guarding the entrances to these neighborhoods, and he was nice enough to let me in. But took my driver's license and monitoring me coming back out, because this is still a very dangerous, strange sort of situation. And I imagine nobody's coming back into this building for a little while. Anyway, we'll see.